Good evening. There might be a few of you overseas watching. Oh, Dave and I were having such a blast talking backstage, but we managed to go live on time. And we are going to talk about all things related to email, what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong, some opportunities to improve and enhance what you're doing. That is the topic of the day. But I want to give each of us a chance to introduce ourselves, and then we are going to get rolling. So, Dave, let me have you introduce yourself first. I can't wait to hear this because we go way back, but I don't think I could really give your bio.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you having me on, Jennifer. This has been so awesome. Really looking forward to this for a long time. So I'm Dave Scott. I'm the CEO of Scott Growth Strategies. We are a growth strategy firm, sales and marketing coaching firm based in tropical Fargo, North Dakota. And for those of you who haven't seen my LinkedIn profile, who don't know me, I used to be the former chief marketing officer at Connect Booster before they sold to Kaseya during some of their highest growth periods from 2014 to 2017. And so that's my foray into the channel. Before that, I was with a very small hardware vendor in Plymouth, Minnesota called Ecessa. They used to sell a WAN virtualization hardware product that was a competitor to Barracuda's, like way, way back in the day. So I got my start and just kept plugging away, and here we are today. So SGS, we have about 16 members. We're based across the country, and we help IT owners develop a scalable sales and marketing process so that they can eventually find their next big thing, whatever that next big thing is.
I love it.
Yeah.
So I think it's funny that all of the companies you have worked for or founded have been in very cold areas of the country.
Yes.
So is your next big thing going to be like in southern Texas or
Yeah.
something?
It'll be in the Panhandle or Florida or
Nice.
San Diego or someplace warm. Yes. And I just
Okay.
turned 45 last month. I went skiing in Vail, and I'm like, you come home to just it was fucking freezing, pardon my French, but it was so bitterly cold here. And the older I get, I'm so cantankerous and I'm so over it, right? And so you go to a lot of trade shows, as you know, a lot of the trade shows are in warm areas like,
Yes.
Vegas or California or Southern California, not heavenly where they're getting dumped
Right.
on with 10
Right.
feet of snow, but they're warmer environments. So you go down there, you get a taste of it and you're like, oh man, it'd be really nice to like do this full time. So
It really is like San
yeah,
Diego is just lovely. I don't know that
oh, it's
it's
beautiful.
ever hot. Like it's just
It's
gorgeous
72
there.
and sunny every second of every day. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, that sounds like paradise to me. That's fantastic.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. All
So
right. So
eventually,
I'm
yes, that'll be the
yeah.
next big move.
No, I love it. So let me introduce myself quickly, and then we'll pivot into our topic. I'm Jennifer Bleem. I'm the owner and founder of MSP Sales Revolution. We are a marketing and sales consulting company. So we help MSPs who are around $500,000 to maybe 4 or 5 million, help them install a proven system to growing their company. So this is interesting. Like a lot of people will say, "Wait a second, don't you and Dave compete with each other?" And like we actually refer business back and forth if we're
Yeah.
not exactly a right fit. So
Yeah.
this is a good, like, let this be a lesson to you if you're watching that on paper it may look like you're competing, but in reality there's
No.
plenty of business to go around, and my
Yeah.
ideal client does not look like Dave's, and Dave's ideal client does not look like mine, and so
Yeah.
we're able to form a really cool partnership.
Yeah, exactly. I call it co-opetition. It's
Yes,
a
I
little bit of
love it.
competition and collaboration, right? Those two
Nice.
combined. And yeah, so our ideal audience is they got to be around that $2 to $3 million in gross annual revenue mark and up. We don't work with humongous brands. We work with some vendors in the past, but like we're here to serve MSPs. But at the end of the day, yeah, very much co-opetition.
I love it. All right, so we are talking about email, and we're going to talk through common mistakes that we see. Like these are
Yeah.
the things that if you're doing this, stop, get those fixed, figure out how to get
Yep.
that right, and then
Yep.
we're going to talk about some best practices. But before we dive into those two pillars for today, the premise is that you have a list of people to email to. And I don't want to make the assumption of believing everybody that's listening has a list. So kind of the kind of the pre-work before you can start to email a list is to have a list and to build that list, to grow that list.
Yeah.
So Dave, I want to throw this to you and we'll just banter back and forth. How big of a challenge is it in the industry today for companies just to not have much of an email list? And how do you approach solving that challenge if it is a
Yeah.
challenge?
That's such a good question. So the modern day grandfather of modern day copywriting and words, David Ogilvy, once said that if you don't know who you serve, you don't serve anyone, right? And so his point is any brand, whether you're a manufacturing firm, a law firm, an IT services firm, insurance agency, car dealership, everybody has their ideal persona, right? Their ideal buyer. And it's the going through the process of eliminating the tire kickers, meaning the people that we call it a negative persona, somebody you don't want to sell your services to, in order to get to the person or the persona that you do want to sell them to, right? In the book, I forget the name of the book. It's a book by Vern Harnish. He talks about the concept of SVP. So specialization, verticalization, productization, right? Guys like Reed Warren at IT Valuations talk about this a lot. Gary Pica talks a lot about it. Mike Harvath at Revenue Rocket. These are M&A and growth strategy firms. Rick Murphy at Cogent Partners talks about it, right? So SVP is the concept of specializing in one specific or two specific technologies, right? Like we're the best, most kick-ass cloud provider. We have the best security solution or stack, whatever, and then verticalizing it. So the V, so specializing, and then verticalizing it, which is ideally finding your top two or three industries you want to verticalize that into, and then the P for productizing is really just making sure that you have an easy way to sell it, right? So whether you're billing $98 a month, $298 a month, $598 a month, whatever it is, like you have to have SVP execute and understand who the ideal target audience is to buy your services. Once you have that figured out, then it's just a matter of finding the right list buying platform to acquire contacts from, right, within a certain geography of your office. So say you're in San Francisco or Minneapolis or New York City, you probably can faithfully deliver your services within a 2 or 3 hour radius of that area, right? So you just go into a dashboard inside of Zoom Info or Seamless AI or whatever tool that you want to sign up for and subscribe to, and you find your ideal persona inside of that platform. Download the contacts, make sure they have emails to them, make sure you follow can spam laws, and start sending them content on a consistent basis.
Interesting. Okay, so I
Yeah.
loved a couple of tips that I want to make sure that I'm
Mhm.
going to repeat because they're so key. Is that sometimes defining who you want to market to, sometimes you can
Yeah.
backdoor into this by defining who don't you want to serve. And
Yep.
sometimes that flip, like that just flip that on its head. Instead of saying who do I want to serve, who don't I want to serve? And sometimes that is
Hmm.
enough to get things moving and to realize who it is that you want to serve. And then
Yeah.
I love these conversations because anytime I'm in a room like this and you're quoting Ogilvy and you're referring to all of the various books and leaders in our space, I
Yeah.
know I'm in the right room. So I'm excited because of that. But you mentioned a corollary concept of a marketing message to everyone is a marketing message to no one. And
Yeah.
so I see that a lot. I serve every business in a
Yeah.
whatever my circle is, however big that geography is, from as long as they have 10 to 500 computers, I'm going to serve them.
Yep.
And then you have to create a marketing message that appeals to all of those companies,
It's
which is
really hard to do.
impossible. And then it means it appeals to no one. So,
Yeah. That's
okay.
exactly it. And
So you advocate buying a list. I don't. And so
yeah.
let's park there for a second. This is
Hmm.
fun because we didn't plan this ahead of time. So friction is good. Like
Yeah.
there's no one right way to do anything. So
No, definitely not.
um, I I know why I don't love buying a list, but why do you advocate buying a list?
Yeah. So in my experience, what we found is if IT firms don't have contact lists or email lists of about 1,000 to 2,000 deep, you're just never going to get the ROI that you're looking for. And that's because your list is too small, right? And so if you go to a chamber of commerce and you get a list that way, or maybe you go to, the federal government's website and find NAICS codes, I think is what they are, or SIC codes, SIC codes, same thing. There's still limited geography, right? And you're not going to find the ideal right buyers based on search criteria. So when you sign up for like Zoom Info, and the two we recommend are Seamless AI and Zoom Info. Seamless AI has got a great platform. You can download up to 1,000 contacts a month times 12 months. You pay a flat fee either per month or per year, depending on what their billing subscription rate is, and you go from there. But inside of those platforms, you can actually target and find your ideal buyer within a geography around you, right? It would take you years to develop a list as a small MSP inside of your geographic city area versus just buying them, right? And so there's a cost involved, but it's just in my mind, it's the cost of doing business, right? And so it's just you absorb it as an expense. My CPA will call it an expense. I call it an investment. So
Yes.
yeah, but at the end of the day, if you don't have a list that's a couple thousand, few thousand deep, it's going to be really hard to leverage email marketing to grow. And the goal
Love
is
it.
not to leverage email marketing just to send out blanketed emails. Like I got the question yesterday on a prospect call. He's like, "Well, we tried email before; it doesn't work." I'm like, "That's because you're doing it wrong." And he was like, "Well, how do you know we're doing it wrong?" I was like, "Because we're talking. That's why. You
Yes.
wouldn't be talking to me if everything was going great, right?" He's like, "That's true, right?" So my point is, when you get these lists, you have to do the right things with them, right? You have to talk about hyper personalized messages. So if you're downloading lists that are small healthcare practices with 2 to 20 doctors, like they don't know shit about compliance for manufacturing firms, right? So my point is, if I get just a naked list from the local chamber of commerce or from my state chamber of commerce, I guarantee you it's not going to be hyper personalized or segmented. So I can't develop content that serves that specific market, right? If I'm a
Yes.
manufacturer and I'm looking to look at outsourcing my IT, I want to know that you as an IT firm have specialized in working with my manufacturing firm. If I am a business owner, I own a bunch of healthcare practices or bunch of dental offices or law firms or hospitality venues. I want to know that you have a product and you've got experience in hospitality or with law firms or with whatever industry it is. Just pick your poison. And if you don't, I'm probably not going to buy from you because I don't want to buy from a generalist. I want to buy from a specialist who's going to save me
Yes.
time, money, and solve my problems.
Yes.
So that's the whole point of going through the persona process. Now you can acquire lists again through networking and pounding on doors. It's just going to take you a lot more time and it's going to be a lot longer, more arduous process versus acquiring them for a small fee.
And I love having kind of that minimum benchmark of a couple thousand names.
Yep.
It is the rare MSP that has that size list and that it's
Yep.
growing consistently every single month. So, okay, so you hinted at some things not to do. So don't just blast them with generic content, but let's get into some specifics. So
Yeah.
when we were brainstorming, the first thing that I said is, can we please talk about bad subject lines?
Yes.
I'm not saying my subject lines are all pristine, but I don't think I have any that are bad.
Yeah.
So, can we talk about how? Let's talk about examples of some bad subject lines and maybe a couple of tips on how to avoid bad subject lines.
Absolutely. So I have a folder in my Outlook that is just
Brilliant.
for great email subject lines from
Oh,
other
okay, great
companies.
ones. I thought you were going to
From
say
like,
bad ones. Okay.
no, well, we will talk about both. And so I feel like there's no such thing as a bad subject line. There's just boring subject lines, right? It's like one of my college professors, she used to tell me she was great and she was a wordsmith. She was a former writer. She's passed away. She's a feminist. She was awesome. She was tough. She's the toughest professor I ever had when I went to college at the University of Minnesota. And she would say that there's no such thing as content that's too long. There's only content that's too boring.
Too boring.
And I
Yes.
apply the same methodology. I just adopted her thought process to email subject lines. If email subject lines don't arrest you, meaning they don't capture your attention like right away, you've lost 50% of the battle. And I guarantee you, if they don't click on it because the subject line is compelling or persuasive or edgy, they're not going to click on the rest of your email, right? And so she was right, and I always apply that same methodology. So you don't want to use subject lines that are snooze fests, right? And I noticed that we used to have some clients on the East Coast or on the West Coast rather, and they were like, well, we want to be really professional and look whatever. And I'm like, I get that, but your audience doesn't give two shits about you wearing a suit and tie to come see them. They don't. They're manufacturers, or maybe they're law offices. Law offices maybe dress up a little bit more, but they don't care. You're an IT outsourced IT vendor, right? They're going to look at you that way initially, and then as you build a relationship, build trust, they're going to get more comfortable, and you can dress however you want, right? But they don't want somebody stuffy, and so you have to look at the relationship and equate that to email subject lines and copy, right? If your email copy is boring and stuffy, nobody's going to open it, right? Like it's okay to drop an F bomb in a subject line. It's okay to say the word damn, DAMN, in a subject line. I wouldn't say every time, like,
Sure.
know your audience and don't be crass. But in order to get people's attention, yeah, sometimes you got to do that. Like if I woke up today and I just stayed in bed all day long or didn't check my email and just ran around running errands all day long, I guarantee you by 6 or 7 p.m. Central, I would have 2 or 300 emails in my inbox. You know how I filter them out? Based on who they're from and the
And
subject
subject
lines.
line.
Yep.
Yeah.
Everybody does. It's human buying psychology. And this is not a mystery, but we tend to think of it that way, right? So when you put email subject lines like um, cybersecurity webinar Tuesday, March 10th, boring, yawn. I'm going to go to
Yes.
sleep now. Bye.
Or did you
Sign up.
see my first email?
Yes, exactly. Sign
Nope.
up for our Genetech physical security event. Okay, well, what does that mean for me? Or that doesn't mean shit to me, right? So you need to choose email subject lines that are compelling and persuasive. And so, not again, not boring. Some of the best ones that I use, I get a lot of emails from The Hustle. They sent one here about a month ago. It said, I love you and I love saving you money,
Hmm.
or just I love you. The Morning Brew, I get their emails. It's kind of a civics, email every day. It gives you consumer events
Yes.
and finance news. Morning Brew's great. If you get a chance, sign up for it.
I,
They
I
sent,
have it. It's fantastic. There
yeah,
and so here I would recommend signing up for it with two email addresses.
yep,
Don't read from the one and watch how they get you re-engaged. Watch
yep,
that re-engagement sequence because it's
yep,
masterful.
absolutely. They had one last month where they said hidden taxes. That's all the email subject line was, hidden taxes. I got one from Shutterstock last month. It said, we admit, comma, this is alarming. And I was like, "Whoa, what is that about? Did I not pay my bill?" I got one from Sonos sound bars. I have Sonos sound bars in my whole townhouse, and I'm
Yeah.
single and live on my own, so I have cool technology here for my kids and friends who come visit me. And I have Sonos sound bars, and they sent one last month, and the email subject line is "Don't worry." That's all. I got one from a channel vendor who I won't mention. They said it's happening dot 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 tomorrow. So ellipses tomorrow, right? Um, I got this one from, I won't say his name because it'll probably trigger some people. This one says, do this for you because you fucking matter, right? And so that was a great one, right? Again, he used the F bomb. I don't suggest it. I don't love using it, swear words, but it is what it is. Another one is, uh-oh, someone's got a case of the Mondays. That was a hilarious one, right? Again,
Nice.
you got to think outside the box, right? Or don't quit on yourself. Psst, have you registered for this event? Like PSST dot 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 ellipses. Have you registered for this event?
Like
So
it.
yeah. So my point is, you have to, or this another one, open before Christmas, open before next Christmas, quit your job and change your life, right? So you have to be willing to get really creative. And sometimes that might mean getting in your face, getting in your audience's face. And as an IT guy, like I fight with them all the time. And they're like, well, it's not going to get anybody's attention. I'm like, okay, then you go do it yourself. Well, no, that's not what I'm saying. Okay, then stop fighting for me with me and let my creative team go do and execute, right? And usually when we do, we get 30, 40, 50, 60, 70% open rates. One of the coolest emails that George Bardisi sent out last month before he went to a channel event was a short video clip, and it was him, and it was a meme that had a link, and all of the subject line is "See you at Orlando at Exchange." And George, you owe me for giving you a friggin' shout out on this video. And it's him waving, and it's just like a looping meme, and it's so goofy looking, right? And then you click on it, takes him to a short video that he filmed using StreamYard. And it's a short video saying, "Hey, I'm George Bardisi. I love the IT industry. Here's how I got my start. I started MSP services when I was in high school. Oh, and by the way, I now own a VoIP company and I run MSP initiative. I'm going to be at Exchange. We got a booth. If you want a great VoIP solution that's built on 3CX platform that's going to make you money and help your clients love you even more and make you more sticky, come see us, booth 514, whatever. If not, no worries. We're holding an after show. You can come drink as much beer. I'll buy it for you as you want, even if you never come stop by and see us. That was it. And so email subject lines like that, see you in Orlando at Exchange, right? That's going to get somebody's attention. So it really starts again, going back to, we talked about earlier, who is your ideal persona? Who is that? Who is not your ideal persona? Where do you get those lists from? Get them from a platform. And then again, you have to focus on non-boring subject lines and ones that are going to get your emails opened up. And then as they open it up, like you better be damn good and ready to present a really good copy in front of them. Because if your copy
Yes.
sucks and your
Yeah.
subject line is really compelling, people are going to unsubscribe and they're going to get a bad taste in their mouth. You don't want that to happen either.
All right. So before we go to copy, because I do want to talk about the content and how to make the
Yeah.
content appealing, but I want to do this sequentially. So the
Hmm.
goal of the subject line is to get the email opened.
Yep.
And I love the idea of having a folder. I'm stealing that idea, by the way, having a folder of good email subject lines, because it's kind of the thing. If you bank tellers, they don't ever study the counterfeit, they only study the real thing.
Hmm.
And so that will help prime my brain to create good subject lines.
Yeah.
But if you're not sure if it's a good subject line, there's a couple of subject line testers. You can Google that. I don't know if you have a favorite that you use.
Subjectline.com.
Oh, nice.
So
Okay.
one of our clients went to the Inbound conference. Inbound is HubSpot's annual conference, and it's in Cambridge every year. And they got to see him speak, the CEO of subjectline.com. And he was amazing. And I guess they had like standing room only outside of his room, and nobody could get in because it was so bloody packed. The subject lines are such a big deal, right? And so he spoke and did a kick-ass job, and they have got a great subject line generator. Now they have a free tool, and then they also have a
Yes.
paid version. So I'd said definitely sign up for the paid version. We have the paid version. It's not going to tell you exactly what to do, but at least it gets you the creative juices flowing. So then you can ultimately make a decision to choose the best subject line based on what you're looking for.
And is that subjectline.com that has the free version and the paid version?
Yep, yep.
Okay.
Just go to subjectline.com. And the CEO is kind of an older guy. He did a great job at Inbound, heard a lot of good things. So yeah, subjectline.com is a great one to craft really good subject lines.
Okay. So hopefully you have a good subject line. Hopefully you're getting that 50, 60, 70, 80% open rate.
Hmm.
And now your viewer is inside the email. You
Hmm.
passed the first test. So good on you. You passed the first hurdle. Now
Yay.
you need to make sure that the content delivers.
Yeah.
So how do we fix content? Obviously it shouldn't be boring, but how
No.
do we know if our content is boring or not?
Yeah, that's such a great question. So you have to have a framework in which you write copy and create copy. We use PAS. It stands for problem, agitate, solve. It's an acronym. And so as a part of that process, the first thing you want to do is write toward when I write, I always speak it. Like when I type, like I was creating some landing page copy with Khalees, one of our amazing copywriters here at SGS yesterday. And she was like, "Did you speak this out loud?" I'm like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Good. It sounds like it." And I'm like, "Yeah, thanks." And so we were creating some homepage and some landing page copy for a couple of IT firms that we work with, right? And so you want to go through it and make sure as you talk through it, it sounds like you. It also sounds like a human. And I know it sounds ridiculous, but like get in front of a mirror, take a mirror into your office or whatever, or just look at it, pull it up on multiple screens. Like in my home office, I have like 4 or 5 screens. I have a podcast desk and studio behind me, and then I have two in front of me here that you can't see. But I always pull it up on multiple monitors and I read it to myself, right? And then I listen back. Okay, does that sound like an actual human being?
Hmm.
People just want to be spoken to, authentically and vulnerably, right? And it's okay to share feelings inside of your tone of your emails too. So the copy always has to have some sort of framework. And so as a part of that, you want to be cognizant of the fact that acronyms like PAS are probably the way to go. And so really whatever the email copy is about, like say you're writing about inviting people to a cybersecurity webinar, you want to tell them why they should come to the webinar, right? Like what sort of issues are they going to have if they don't show up for this webinar? Well, your data might not be backed up. Do you have all your compliance stuff in line? How do you know? Have you had it checked? Do you have a cybersecurity liability insurance policy complete with Hiscox forms and with nationwide forms, or whoever your, Progressive or your insurance company is? Like, have they been filled out correctly? Have you validated them? You have to validate them every year, and you have to have your IT provider sign off on them, and they have to have some sort of cybersecurity certification, or they will in the near future because the White House's zero trust policy, right? So, do you have all those things? And so, it's about creating a little bit of FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt in your ideal buyer. And so, you want to write with the problem. You want to agitate it. So, you state the problem. Hey, you might not be cybersecurity secure. Your data might not be secure. When is the last time you went through an exercise with a tool like Sentinel One or whomever, or with your IT provider? How do you know you're secure? Oh, good question, right? Creating fear. Then you want to agitate it. Well, if you don't get secure, here's some of the unintended consequences that can happen. You might go out of business. You might have to fire an employee. You You might spend $90,000 on a project basis with your IT firm to fix it in case something goes awry, right? So you want to agitate it. And then at the end, you want to provide a solution, right? It's PAS. And so that solution needs to be, okay, if you want to know how to do this yourself, right? We will show you how to do that on this webinar on March, 17th at 8 p.m. or whatever. They have limited seating. Sign up now, and we'll see you there. Right? We'll show you all the things that you need to know about cybersecurity and about how it pertains to your law firm, manufacturing group, hospitality venue, whatever, right? And so you have to have a framework in which to write. But again, you want to use flair, you want to use compelling copy, you want to hire a copywriter who understands words. And if you're not using some of those most powerful words in the human language, then again, it's all going to die by the vine. And there are certain trigger words that you absolutely need to use in your copy. And it's not about being manipulative. It's not about persuading anybody. It's really not. It's just about using the right words that get people to pay attention and take action. And that's the whole goal of marketing and the whole goal of sales and the whole goal of copy is to move them down a funnel, down a path where you educate them using a good communication framework like PAS, and then just rinse and repeat.
So I broke a rule and I did not ask you if there was anything off limits. So I'm going to go down a little bit of a rabbit trail, and you can choose to jump on board with me or not, because this is another area where we've a little bit of disagreement. But the PAS framework. Chat GPT knows that framework. And so there's nothing wrong while you are learning to copyright. Please don't use Chat GPT and just
Yeah.
create it and copy paste it. It is not ready for that today. I think it'll be ready soon.
Yeah.
Dave doesn't think it'll be ready soon, but I
No.
think it's coming. But it is a good study to be able to say, okay, perhaps you write your email first using PAS and then you go to Chat GPT. You can even tell Chat GPT, write me an email based on the PAS framework. And after each paragraph or each sentence, tell me what you've done. So now you're almost treating Chat GPT as a marketing strategy coach, and you're saying, teach me PAS while you're writing me an email based on PAS. Again, don't copy paste it. It's not ready.
Yeah.
But Chat GPT does know those frameworks. So
Yes.
um,
So they might know it, but they're not going to create accurate content. That's the
agreed.
other problem. Yeah.
100% agreed. Yeah,
So
there's
the
time after time of inaccuracies.
yeah, but I mean, if you want them to create you like an outline, that's what ChatGPT before. I mean, look, I'm a huge fan of like technology. Like someday I will have an autonomous driving car so I can work or I can be on phone calls or video calls or I can have conversations with my daughters and my grandkids and family and friends. Like I hate driving long distances because I have to drive. You can't do anything productive. My house is wired up with technology. I just put a humongous switch and a hub down in my basement, and I use it to run all my physical rooms here run with physical wired Ethernet, Cat 5 and Cat 6 for just better security. I have Vivint. I live in like a small Fort Knox. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it is what it is. So there's nobody that's a bigger fan of AI and technology than I am. But when this thing here still can't deduce how to fix autocorrect when I'm talking to Siri, how the fuck do we expect ChatGPT to write 1,000 word article about Knox or cybersecurity protocols, right? It's just not going to happen. It's
Right.
not. And
Yeah.
it won't for a long time. ChatGPT and Jasper will not be great for a long time. They just won't. It's going to take years and years and years. They can supplant or augment some of your copy, certainly, and they understand the PAS framework. It's also known as PASTOR, not to get religious, but PASTOR. PASTOR is another acronym. It stands for problem, agitation, solution, testimonial, offer, response. Same thing. It's just a little bit more in depth because you're offering an offer and a response to the problem that you agitated and wrote about. So they understand that framework, but they're going to create copy that isn't accurate. And
Yes.
the people who create Chat GPT and Jasper are human beings with bias, right?
Yes.
Like every single piece of code in the world is created by us, imperfect, opinionated, biased, cognitive biased human beings. And so the platforms are all completely biased. So if we're creating an article about compliance, well, what if it's healthcare compliance that has to do with political regulation at the state level? I can guarantee you ChatGPT is not going to know shit about that.
Right.
And either is for sure Jasper won't. Jasper's a lot, I don't want to say dumber, it's a crass word, but I'll just, for lack of better words, it's a poorer writing platform than ChatGPT is.
Mhm.
So you can use them to supplant, use them for small things, but I would never ever use it to write a whole bunch of really meaningful copy. I would never do that. And there's a couple
I
of vendors who in the IT channel who in the last month have launched like automated AI content creating companies. And I'm telling you, if you use that, it will screw up your SEO till the day is long, and you will end up paying thousands of dollars to get it fixed. And it will be bad because the search engines, Google, Yahoo, Bing, have also come out and said if you create chat GBT copy for your website or you use Jasper to create landing page copy, we'll pick it up and it's not going to meet our signals and our domain authority requirements. You're not going to show up in search.
Hmm. And it's interesting. I will use ChatGPT simply so I'm not starting with a blank slate. So I
100%.
use it a lot for like webinar subject lines, but I'm able to recognize, like if I ask for 8 subject lines, I might pull a word from here and a word from here and a word from here. And
Yeah,
then the rest of it's me because that just got me thinking in the right direction.
absolutely.
I don't even think I've used a synopsis, maybe a bullet point I may have copied and pasted and used verbatim, but not even just
Yeah.
a 4-line synopsis of a webinar. I always have to edit it because it's a little general. It's just a little generic. It's not compelling. It's
Yes.
computer generated. It is lacking of the emotion. So,
Yes,
okay.
exactly. And that's the bias that comes with what we
Yeah.
talked about earlier. So yeah, in your instance, like even not my instance, all if you wouldn't mind sharing our Chat GBT Jasper article that I blogged about last week
Oh,
that I
yes.
that I
Yes.
shared, yeah, for your audience to see. Yeah, I actually had that created by Jasper. Took Jasper like 10 minutes because you have to fill in a bunch of criteria. What tone do you want? Who is the audience? And so you go through this little bit of a process and it spit it out. But I took 3 or 4 hours re-editing it and adding more content because it wasn't correct. It was wrong.
And
And
that's
it
on
we
your blog, right?
yeah, just go
Okay.
to scottgrowthstrategies.com and go to our blog and you can
Yep.
it's our most recent
Yep.
article.
I'm pulling it. Yeah.
And I also wanted to have ChatGPT and Jasper write about why syndicated content is bad too, right? So I'm going to name some names here. I might get in a cease and desist letter like I've gotten before, but I don't care. If you use content from like Vertical Action or Robin Robbins contractors, it's syndicated. Like even Nigel, whatever, Faith Tech Tribe, those guys, a lot of their social content is syndicated, meaning 100 other MSPs or 1,000 other MSPs are using the exact same content. That's the same stuff the search engines have said is not good for your website because it's low quality, it's low authority, it's not going to get the right signals, and you shouldn't use it. It's not a good long-term strategy or approach, right? And so, in the same way, ChatGPT and Jasper, are creating content that is the opposite of that, but some of it's having the same effect, right? And so, we talked a little bit about why the value of syndicated content is so low, and why you shouldn't use it if you're an MSP or a tech firm. And again, nothing against Herman and Vertical Action, against Robin, against Nigel and Tech Tribe. They're all good people, but I would just never buy their content because it's so low quality and it doesn't really answer the questions that your ideal prospects are looking for, which is why a really high quality copywriter will solve that for you.
Well, it's interesting. We were talking about emotion and personality. When
Yeah.
I saw you post that, I think I saw it first on Facebook, and I'm scanning through the article, and I'm like, I wonder if Dave got a new copywriter because it just didn't have the same personality. And so I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, well maybe he was rushing, maybe he rearranged paragraphs and it just didn't flow. It just something was different. And
Yeah.
then I got 2/3 of the way in, and you're like, and Chat GPT wrote this, and I'm like, aha!
Yep.
I just felt it, and I definitely would I have gone before a court of law and say, did Dave write this? Yes or no? It wasn't. I wouldn't have been willing to do that,
Yeah.
but I could feel a difference, and that emotional connection. I mean, people buy from people they know, like, and trust.
Hmm.
Well, I didn't have that same feeling in that blog as I have with other pieces of your content. So it is different.
Yeah.
Okay, we are
Good point.
so going to run out of time. We may need to do this again. We've talked a lot about what not to do.
Hmm.
Let's shift to what to do. So we have a list, whether we've built it, whether we've bought it. We've got a great, compelling subject line. We've got great content. How do we figure out what that content should be? What should we do?
Yeah. So first, you just want to ask your audience what they want to see. Ask them what you wanna get out of this content. There's two schools of thought. You can either have ego and be like, well, we're going to ask our customers, and they're going to think we're fools because we're going to ask them what we feel our sales and marketing strategy should be. No, it's not it at all. You're just asking them about what their pain points are so you can write about it. Marcus Sheridan wrote in his book, You Ask, They Answer. He talked about when he ran a pool company in the middle of an economic collapse. Like, you think shit is bad now? Go back to 2007, 8, and 9 during the Obama administration when it was really bad, right? Like, people were like, I mean, it was ugly financially, and the end of the Bush administration, it was bad, right? It was bad, bad, bad. So that being said, if if that's the case and everybody's discretionary income was gone, and you are now selling a product that's based on the value and finding that discretionary income, like, what do you do? Like, who buys pools during an economic downturn? Not me, right? Not the average Joe Schmo American or
Well,
the average
you
business
live in
owner.
Wisconsin or North
North
Dakota.
Dakota.
So, I mean, in fairness, you're not exactly his target market, but the
Yeah.
point is still valid.
Yes.
Continue.
So if you want to answer their questions, ask them, right? There's nobody better to ask. This is bold, but I'd even call your top prospects, right? Like, Gary Pika's got a great methodology. He talks about creating the top 250 or top 50 or top 100 list of companies that you want to buy your services and that you want to work with. Freaking call them. Find their IT director. Go to LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Google Acme Manufacturing Firm, Hartford. Google, biggest law firm Los Angeles. Find them. Find out their prospect. Go on to LinkedIn. Like, do a little. Take you 10, 15 minutes tops to find out who the buyer is, and then just shoot them an email or send them a phone call and say, hey, this is Steven or this is David at SGS Tech Firm. We want to work with you guys, but before we do that, we're struggling to create some sales and marketing content, some really great content, and I would love to get your thoughts if you have some time. I'll stop by your law firm, your manufacturing firm, whatever. We can do a Zoom call, whatever you want. And I just want to pick your brain about what things are most important to you regarding your tech. Oh, yeah, I would love to. Well, what's some of your biggest problems? Well, we get big fucking bills from our tech firm to the tune of 20 grand every quarter. And I don't know where they're coming from. Or we didn't upgrade our software licenses. Or, my sales guys keep, no offense to sales guys, they keep clicking on stupid links and we get hit with ransomware, right? Shame on this. It's always the sales guys, right?
Yeah, of course.
Or our marketing team just struggles with project management and SharePoint access, and those are like all these nuances that have to do with technology. So if I'm a business owner, I want you as a tech firm to write about these things. Great. So you ask them, and then you develop a laundry list of items. You filter them out. You brainstorm. You come up with an outline, and then you write copy based on each one of those topics and in each individualized email. So one topic might be about cybersecurity issues. One topic might be about how to use SharePoint. One topic might be about how to better help your team from a project management perspective, manage your file structure inside of Microsoft or whatever tool you're using, or just keep going down the list of laundry items. Or how to avoid a $25,000 bill once a quarter for outdated hardware, right? So again, you just got to ask your customers. That's the first thing I would do, and that's just market research 101. Read Marcus's book too. It's a phenomenal book.
Well, and Marcus was on your podcast, wasn't he? Just
Yeah.
recently.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah. He
I
talked about it. The
yeah, you talked about
pool
using
days.
his concepts for
Yeah.
MSPs.
Yeah, we do it. Like, we you got you, we have to set aside your preconceived notions that the way that I'm doing it, that you're doing it, is always the right way, because it's not. And with AI changing and the search engines changing, every day, like I change my socks, like, it's hard to keep up. So you have to talk to your customers. You can't rely on technologies to do it for you. And there's nothing wrong with asking questions. We have a saying here at SGS, grandmama said, grandmama always said, if you never ask, you never get an answer, right? So
Mm.
if you never ask the question, you're never going to find out. So instead of us assuming that they want to learn about the tools that Marketopia or ConnectWise are telling you to shove down the throat of your prospects, which I'd argue is wrong, ask your actual prospects. They'll tell you.
I,
Maybe it has nothing to do with IT. Maybe it's, staffing and those things you can't help them out with, but that's okay. At least you can be a trusted advisor and point them in the right direction and build trust, because then you build trust. And I guarantee you, the next time they need an outsourced IT vendor, they're going to think of you because they left with a really good taste in their mouth.
And what an amazing intro message on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Instead of buy for me, hey, it's nice to connect with you, blah, blah, blah. Like we all get those and we cringe and we don't want to do that. But
Yep.
what if instead you connected with people on LinkedIn and you're like, hey, it's great to meet you. I love meeting fellow Hartford business owners.
Yep.
Hey, it would really help me out if I could understand what kind of content would help your business. Can we
Exactly.
meet for a virtual coffee or a real coffee? I'll bring you coffee.
Yep.
I would love to serve. And
Yep.
if that is your genuine desire, now you're creating content that your ideal client wants to hear about because
Yes.
you've going all the way full circle. You've defined who is your ideal buyer. Now you're connecting with them. You've got a
Yes.
list of them, and now you're creating content that talks to them and you're creating know, like, and trust. So
Yep.
I love it.
100%. Exactly. So there's a
How
process
about,
to it,
yeah,
but you got to follow the
yes.
process.
Well, and it isn't instant, right? I think
No.
that's the other thing. It's not really in our outline or agenda for today, but that is a big challenge with marketing. Is it like we all want I want like instant marketing. Let's just go to the cabinet and open up the package of instant marketing, pour it in,
Yes.
put it in the microwave for 30 seconds, and out pop a bunch of leads. And that's
Yes.
not the way it works.
No, it's consistency and longevity. I've been preaching about consistency as we've gone into the new year. And it's our jobs as sales and marketing consultants to help them understand that 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year isn't going to get you massive amounts of ROI. You might not get one lead in that time. I mean, you should, but you might not. And that's okay. The goal is to build a scalable foundation so you can grow without running into each other like a bunch of chaotic clowns in a circus car, right? And if you keep doing the things you're doing over and over again, you're going to get the same result. The great Greek philosopher Heraclitus once said, nothing changes if nothing changes, right? And so
Yes.
if you don't change the way you're doing things, nothing's going to change, right? And every single one of our clients, and we work with some large IT firms, 10, 15, 20, $25 million in annual revenue. They will have their customers' IT plans and strategies and BDR plans documented to a T, but they have their HR plans in disarray. They don't have a documented sales and marketing strategy to save their lives. These are 20, 30, 40, $50 million IT firms. These are big IT firms with a lot of bodies, a lot of smart people, a lot of brain matter inside their building, a lot of payroll costs, right? And it's not uncommon for them not to have much at all documented, period, right? And so at the end of the day, it really is about putting that plan in place, documenting some of these things, and just following that process, and really building that scalable approach. That takes a lot of time, and it has nothing to do with lead gen. Like project management, SharePoint file folder structure has nothing to do. There's no ROI. Now, is there value and growth that comes from that? 100%. Our company, we are really good project managers. We're not the best. We got issues. We got our poop stinks, just like everybody else. But we also know that if we don't have a good project management, a decent PM structure, like it's going to be chaotic. And we don't have that here. And none of our clients have that either in working with us. And they're always a little bit put off initially because we talk a lot about it. And then we work with them for a year or two and they're like, huh, yeah, there's actually a lot of value into the structure that you've helped us develop because it's organized and it's not what's organized-ish. It's not as bad as it once was, and we can actually find copy to use and to grow. And now we have a scalable, growable framework, and we didn't before. And that's the whole goal: is to use sales and marketing as a framework so that you can grow and scale without it being so stressful like it once was.
I love it. All right, so we are almost up against the top of the hour. If someone wants to reach out to you, best place to find you or best way to reach out to you?
Yeah, just shoot me a email. My email's Dave at scottgrowthstrategies.com. I know it's a long URL. I promise you I will trim it down someday. Or shoot me a text. I'm gonna be bold and just put out my company cell at 612-209-8780. Just put your first and last name and that you heard me on this Facebook cast or this stream, and we'll be good. So 612-209-8780. And then my email address is dave at scottgrowthstrategies.com. And you can check us out on the web. Just Google Scott Growth Strategies.
I love it. Dave, thank you so much. Like I said, we didn't get through half of what we were hoping to talk about. So we may need to do this again very soon. But
Part
I
two.
appreciate your time. I know you're busy, so I'm glad we were able to make this happen.
Yeah, it's been so great. Thanks for having me on your show. Appreciate you very much. Very grateful for you and your audience.
Likewise, have an amazing